in delivering this talk, I have no conflicts of interest to declare. And I think when it comes to applying this current trend, which is viraling towards all of us here in this team of the conference, I think if we were to apply tips and techniques about fusion and osteoporosis, I think the same rules apply, whether it is an open access surgery, a minimal access surgery, an MIS, a tubular access TLIF, or an endoscope access. So I think those tenets are the same. Those tenets are the same all over. We need a good area for fusion. We need to prepare that area properly. We'll need to get appropriate stabilization for the segment while awaiting it to fuse. And at the same time, we must assure that the substrate that we use is appropriate for fusion across the gap. And of course, we need to treat the osteoporosis, something which I always forget. Yeah. So when it comes to surface area, we are limited by the narrowness and the limitation of design of our rasps, our shavers. And so our colleagues have devised various techniques to run around this problem. So they go all around the corpus. We've got bespoke instrumentation trying to reach far-flung corners. Many of these are patented with names, and they are an appreciable and honorable way of trying to get around the problem. At the same time, we need to make sure that we pack the anterolateral quadrants with bone graft. This is an utopian figure. In reality, I wouldn't be able to achieve this. But the main thing is, regardless of what I do, is after shoving the cage in, I need to ensure that there is as little rocking instability as possible. And I think some of our colleagues have gone around that and put in a double cage. And that gives you a lot of stability all around. So I think when it comes to packing the bone graft, I'm reduced to doing it the old-fashioned way. I have a funnel, and I wish that they would not reduce my movements to comical putting in and shoving of the loose bone material inside. And I do wish that these funnel shafts come with graduated markings so that I do not need to always refer to the C-arm to see how deep I've gone in. At the same time, when I'm preparing the surface, I think I am guilty of more than my share of injuring the end plate. You get bleeding in the beginning, and then in the end you get subsidence. I would love to get this end point every time, a nice denuded end plate, but it doesn't always happen. And I think our colleagues, again, have gone around the block, come up with very good designs. Some of them use blunt dissectors to denude the surface. Some of them use contralateral pedicle screws, not to distract, but to maintain the space, so that your subsequent reaming does not over-injure the end plates. And again, you know, from Michael Wang and Basil, you have wire brushes, which are so delicate, and which will essentially finish up the end point of it, and remove cartilage without injuring the end plate. And you've got nice novel ways of inflating contrast-laden balloons, and to see if there's any gap between the balloon and the bone. Any gap meaning that job's not done, carry on back, get this surface. And I think, again, when we come to cages, we arrive at a crossroads of sorts. I mean, when it comes to size, yes, we know footprint, height, but what about materials? And regardless of whether you choose a PEEK cage with a HA coating, or you choose a titanium cage with high porosity, I think the message is still the same. We're trying to reduce stress forces. We're trying to reduce the stress contrast. We can also do that by having conformal cages. And of course, when you come to the mechanics of the cage, you do have the ease of putting in an expandable cage and the luxury of opening it within the disk space. But that comes with the possibility of damaging the end plate, which we all know expandable cages are due and are capable of. Screw per chains, as my colleague earlier on has elegantly put it, can be strengthened in many ways. Of all these, my worry is size, because I'm prone to oversizing my screws and perhaps cracking the pedicle inevitably. Substrate-wise, we are bereft of this opportunity of getting large amounts of bone graft way back 25 years ago when I first started. We're now down to autograft from laminotomy. These are slim pickings because they are cartilaginous. It's an articular process. And they can be sclerotic because it is an articular process. So I think do not hesitate if you need to go over to an allograft, and do not hesitate to remind yourself that the osteoporosis itself has to be treated. It has to be managed. Do we use cages that are conformal? Maybe. Do we use robots? I thank John. I thank John for teaching me about robotics. 30 seconds more.
Yeah.
And thank you. And I thank John for bringing me into the world of robotics, where you can perhaps navigate your cage. You can see where your cage is going. You can try and get a wider swath of end plate curated, or you can even get your screws done in the way you want them to be. And I think this is a luxury which may become a necessity when our finances allow it to. Yeah. I think in the conclusion, well, yes, surface has to be prepared. It has to be prepared the right way for maximum bioactivity. We need to stabilize and make sure that our stabilization works. We need to get substrates that really fuse, that really work, and we do not hesitate when it comes to allograft or enhancers like RHBMP2. And last of all, treat the osteoporosis. Thank you.
Thank you.